Hi guys, I am finally doing What If Deku Was Rambo. Yep, and okay, so I have at least okay pages, but I will be making up the last parts. Okay. What if Deku was Rambo? Only 15% of males have quirks, but not all people hate quirkless people, kind of like racism. Like how people don't really care and middle and stuff. I'm allowed to say that. Don't even get it started don't even, please. I don't need people going after me, even I am a person of color. So, yeah. Okay, I'm good. I don't have corona, I swear. Izuku is born with half black hair, half white hair, one green eye, one red eye, and his skin can look normal. No. Is black and white, sort of like in the picture. I like this fan art, it's just, that's for a different one. Trying to find, there we go. I like this fan art. And it's kind of like this. I'll leave it on here. Izuku was hated for his parents for looking different, even the, wait. Izuku was hated by his parents for looking different, even though he is a boy. And even more, they argued about how his mother cheated on him since he looks different. Izuku, when he is asleep, when he is asleep, he hears screaming, and his bedroom is in the basement. Just want to point that. He hears screaming and someone doing slashing, and his parents yelling and screaming. And then he hears footsteps. Okay, now this is Izuku's POV, so my body was frozen, and then I tried to open the basement door since it was sorry, my body was frozen. I waited and waited for at least a couple hours. Then I tried to open the basement door since it was like a trap door. Then I realized that I only heard the door open and I didn't hear her leave. My body froze in the position of my hand on the door handle. I slowly locked the door and went back downstairs and went to the window. I slowly opened the window and threw my body in the window, running and jumping on the fence. Then I looked behind me and I saw her. The woman that broke into my house was right behind me, staring at me. I then activated my quirk for the first time. I picked up the stone fence and threw it at the woman. She got stuck under the stone fence, and I ran to the neighbor's house, banged on the door like she was right behind me, again and again. They opened the door and called the police. I was brought in for questioning, and they said, "Do you know who this woman is?" They showed me a picture of the woman that chased me in a better lighting, so I could see her better. I recognized her. She was one of the employees my dad had recently fired because she attacked a client that provoked her, since it was a man. I said, "Yeah, she was one of my dad's employees." They said, "Do you know her name?" I said, "Her name is Sayuri Kira. My voice I didn't do the stuttering. Her name is Sayuri Kira. My voice stuttered and shaked. The voice I heard was weird, like in a different entity or something after I was alone. Not alone, no. After I said, it was like a man. But it was in a different language that I somehow understood. It is not from this world. I said some of it, and they ignored it, because it was a very traumatic thing that happened to me, and then said, "Thank you. We will now be interrogating him." Not him, her. A few hours later, they came back to me and said, "She was planning on torturing your parents and making you watch." That sent a chill down my spine. I was diagnosed with PTSD and was sent to an orphanage. From that day on, I had dreams of this man that looked like me, but a little older or different. When I went to this orphanage, they heard what happened to me and put me in a room with no roommates because they thought it would stress me more than I already was since other people. It was kind of boring all alone, so I went to meet other children, and they were actually really nice. It was refreshing. This is where, soon after I was diagnosed with a quirk and mutation, I was the most famous man or boy in the world for being the first to have a quirk that was actually not a mutate. That was actually a like a show off quirk, since but of course males were still hated, but some females wanted to marry me to have powerful kids, or their kids or elders who had children wanted their children to marry me so they would have powerful kids. I was 7 years old and found this unnerving and would write down everything in unsettling detail. I don't know why, but it was just a habit. Like, I've done this before in a different time. After a couple months, I went on a walk. I heard crying down an alley. I was kind of scared, but walked in anyway. I saw a girl with blonde hair and yellow snake-like eyes. I felt like I was just like her a few months ago. So I went closer and said, "Are you okay?" She says, "Why are you helping me?" I say, "Because you remind me of myself." I smiled and I put out my hand and she grabbed it. I took her back to the orphanage since it was just, she was scarred very bad, but but can be treated and not need to go to the hospital. When we got to the orphanage, I asked why she was in the alley. She said she was kicked out of her house because of her villainous quirk. I asked her what it was, and she said, "My quirk is transform. if I drink someone's blood, then I can turn into them, and how much blood I drink or consume turns into energy on how long I can hold on to the form. I was fascinated that someone could change themselves just by drinking someone else's blood. I said, That's amazing. That's amazing. I stopped because, well, I didn't know her name. I was about to say her name, but I didn't know it. I asked, what's your name? She says, My name is Himiko Toga. I say, My name is Izuku Midoriya. Izuku says, Well, thank you, Izuku. Toga hugs me and I hug back. I then say, I'll go get some food. Stay here and don't make any sounds, okay? Toga says, Okay. I go downstairs and get some food from the kitchen, then go back. Who's waiting in the room. I patch her up with some bandages and then give her the food so we can both eat. I tried to find some blankets and some pillows so I could sleep on the floor while she sleeps in my bed. But I couldn't find anything since all the other children had already gotten their pillows and blankets. I told her, we may have to sleep in the same bed. I blushed at the thought of sleeping with a girl, someone I barely even knew. I could feel my face going hot. Toga says, I'm okay with that. I blushed even harder and say, You're okay sleeping with a boy? She says, You're not just some boy, you're my savior. I was kind of shocked about what she said. I was glad. I said, Well, then, good night, Himiko. She says, Good night. I got into the bed and she hugged me and cuddled each other in the cold throughout the cold night. Narrator POV. They wake up and Izuku uses his telekinesis to get his jacket and walks down the stairs and says, Mr. Lin, can I get some food for me and the other kids? He said, and another kid, since he's kinda sick. Oh, of course. Just don't take too long. Izuku I need to read this again, 1 second. Izuku then... Okay, let me read this again, sorry. Izuku goes down the stairs and says, Mr. Lin, can I go get some food for me and another kid? For the other kids, since we are running out of food. He says, Sure, why not? Just don't take too long. Here's some bags. Izuku then gets his messenger bag and the other bags that he gave him and goes to buy some food for the orphanage. Izuku walks in the grocery store and he was given some unruly stares, but he ignored them and used his telekinesis to get a jar from the top shelf. They were surprised and looked away in embarrassment. Izuku then approached by a boy, and some were recording because they thought he was going to be mean to the boy. The boy says, Can I ever have a quirk? Izuku bends down and puts his hand on his cheek and says, "Do you want to become a hero?" The boy says, "Yes!" Izuku smiles and says, "You don't have to have a quirk to be a hero. If you want to have a quirk, then you should work hard and not to listen to people who oppose you." Izuku smiles and then speaks in a weird language that the kids somehow understood. The kid's hair becomes a bit darker and he runs off with a smile on his face. Izuku then pays for his food with a smile. When Izuku goes home, he sees the other kids waiting for him. Izuku is the oldest in the orphanage and is usually called Big Brother for always doing the things for the caretakers of the orphanage since he is the oldest. Izuku is like 13, 14. UA is a college. He hugs and high-fives some of the kids that come up to him, and he sets down the groceries and puts them in the kitchen. He walks back up to his room and sees Toga still sleeping. He smiles and takes off his shoes and goes back down the stairs. He locks his room. Izuku goes down to the kitchen and starts making some stuff for the other kids. Izuku makes he makes this. He makes this. He makes these. Yeah. Izuku then after eating his fill, he takes some upstairs. He opens the door with the key and then locks it behind him. He shakes Toga and she wakes up. She says, "Huh? Good morning." Izuku says, "Good morning. Here's your breakfast." Izuku smiles at her and she blushes a bit. She says, "Thank you, Izuku." Izuku then says, "No, thank you." He says, "No, it's fine. Just eat and I'll be on my way." Toga says thanks again and he says no problem. He takes a book and starts reading in the corner on a bean bag. And that is the it. Okay, so as you can tell, the ship is Deku x Toga, and I finally did What If Deku was Rambo. I promised you guys a Rambo one, and I am so excited. I am also doing What If Deku was reincarnation of the Sleepy Boys Incorporate plus Tubbo. I only have 3 pages, and it's not that much. I have What If Deku was Dream Team plus Bad Boy Halo. And I also am continuing on with What If Deku was trained by Technoblade and Dream, but that might take a while. And I'm sure some of you have noticed that I have not updated What If Deku was Technoblade and Dream and was in an apocalypse. I have thought about it, and I might discontinue it since I don't have any good ideas. But please do put your ideas in the comments if you really, if you have some good ideas. I'm also doing What If Deku was the son of Apollo / Helios. like the Titan Helios. And Apollo is from Greek mythology. You can go and look him up. And I love Greek mythology. And to learn stuff quickly in a fun way, go to Over Sarcastic Productions. I really suggest their channel. It's great and it's animated. Hallelujah. And just go in the comments and say any suggestions you have made for the future. I'm always ready to hear some. And you can think about this as 100 sub special, because wow, just wow. And we already have 163 subscribers. So we can say 160 sub special, but I'm just going to put 100 sub special. Thanks guys for all the support. And yeah.